Have you ever wondered why I keep going on about thinking rich and rich habits? You remember we have these monthly Rich Habits, Poor Habits podcasts between my regular Michael Yardney podcast. And the reason is that our subconscious never sleeps. It keeps working tirelessly day in, day out. In fact, it makes up about 5/6 of our brain and controls our breathing, our heart flow, our blood flow, our metabolism, all our bodily functions without any conscious direction on our part. It's also the seat of our emotions and our memory, and it responds to our beliefs. And that's what I want to discuss with you today as we go through another 20 success habits of the rich with Tom Corley. Because there's something in your brain called the reticular activating system, and that acts as a data filter. And our brain's constantly bombarded with millions of bits of information, and our reticular activating system eliminates most of those, allowing only in data that the subconscious has already been pre-programmed to allow in. It's the thing that turns down the sounds when you're asleep, but if you're a mother, it also allows you to sleep through most noises, unless it's, of course, your baby crying, and then you're going to be able to hear it while your husband sleeps soundly right next to you. So what I'm trying to show you in these sessions is that some of the empowering habits that we have are ingrained in us at the subconscious level. And so we all have empowering habits and disempowering habits. And in today's show, I want to go through with you the big differentiator between the successful people, the rich people, and the average person, and go through some more of their habits so you learn about them, so you can work your way towards success as well. So welcome once again to the Michael Yardney podcast.
Welcome to the Michael Yardney podcast, where twice each week you will learn a number of new ideas regarding success, property investment and money in around 30 minutes. Our show is brought to you by Metropole, who specialise in helping you grow, protect and pass on your wealth through strategic property and wealth advice. Now here's your host, Michael Yardney, Australia's most trusted property commentator who has once again been voted Australia's leading property investment advisor. That's the 5th time he's won a similar award in the last 7 years.
Continuing on with our series of discussions about the success habits of the rich and wealthy people, I've got with me Tom Corley, the co-author of my best-selling book, Rich Habits, Poor Habits. Hello, Tom.
Hi, Michael. It's good to hear you again.
Well, we're working through the list of habits that successful people have that have differentiated themselves from the average person. And the purpose of going through this, as we've been doing over the last few weeks, is to make people aware of how they're thinking differently to other people so that they can maybe change some of their habits. They can develop some success habits, some rich habits. Now, I understand that successful people don't believe in fate. They don't believe in luck. They don't believe in destiny. They don't believe in chance to shape their future. They know they've got a future waiting for them, and they know that they are today where they are because of all the things they've done and they've chosen not to do in the past. So similarly, they recognise that what they're doing today is going to put them in the position they want to be in the future.
They don't sit there on the dock and wait for their boat to come in. They go out and swim after the boat and get it and bring it back into the bay. So they see opportunities out there. They take action on it. They believe that action is going to be the key for them to be successful in life. They don't want to sit around and wait for good fortune to visit them because they know it never does. You have to go out and make your own fortune in life.
We're working through the success habits, and one of the things I've recognised is that the poor people have got lots of emotions and feelings about money, while the rich think about it in a more logical way. We've discussed this in previous sessions where they've picked up a lot of their emotions as a child. Things they've heard, things they've seen, things they've experienced from their parents, and clearly these emotions aren't good emotions. They're not positive emotions. They're not empowering emotions, Tom.
No, and there's you can understand that, but if you're raised in poverty, you're struggling. Every day is a struggle. You struggle every month to pay the bills, put food on the table, And in some cases, you're in bad neighborhoods with bad schools. So there isn't a happy conversation going on at home. So the emotions are always seem to be running negative. And so, you forge the habit of developing negative emotions. And when you become an adult, you take those emotions with you into your adulthood. If you have negative emotions surrounding money, then you're going to really not be comfortable handling money. And what happens when you don't like money? Well, it seems to leave. It doesn't like to stick around.
Funny about that, isn't it?
Yeah. And how do they get rid of the money so they don't have a problem of dealing with the money? Is they spend it or they gamble it away, but they don't like to hold on to it and manage it and invest it like the rich people do. So, this is one of the things you have to overcome. Your emotional disdain for money you have to have a mental shift there, or otherwise you're going to constantly be tossing that money out the window.
Well, it's a way of sabotaging themselves. People sabotage themselves so they don't get rich because they have these feelings that rich are ugly, greedy, bad people, and that's not necessarily the case. Another success trait of the wealthy people is that they've got a plan for their lives. They know where they're going, and they work methodically at turning that plan into a reality. They don't just bumble along through life.
No, and we talked about this a little bit in the last podcast. They have a vision, a clear vision of where they want to be, the destination. And what they do is they create goals, which are really the construction crew for building their ideal future life. So they develop these goals that once they accomplish their goals, it brings them up another rung on the ladder. And the higher up they go on the ladder, when they hit the top, they're realizing their ideal, perfect life. So it's a process. And this is an important thing. They're very methodical and process oriented because they know that wealth is a process, just like poverty is a process. But the wealthy people put their plan into action. They take action on their plan and they don't stop. They never give up until they achieve all their goals and realize their dreams.
So the poor people have a feeling that the rich are dishonest, that they've cheated to get their money. Again, it has to do with what we've discussed in the past, where it can't just be that they've worked hard. It can't be that they've studied. It can't be that they've delayed gratification in their mind. They must have done something wrong to get that way. Successful people realize that's not the case at all, Tom.
No, and that honestly, Michael, that's just a cop-out. And it's fed by the media who like to advertise and put on page one the rich individuals who, cheated others out of millions and billions. They become the story for 2 weeks. So they love to set people up and then knock them back down. You see it all the time in the media. So I think that you get indoctrinated into really thinking that rich people are dishonest. And the fact of the matter is, those people that show up on page one in the newspapers, they represent 0.001% of all the wealthy. The rest of them are building hospitals, contributing to nonprofits. They're adding wings to schools. They're helping to fund shelters and put people on the street into homes. So there's a lot of good that the wealthy people do. They're honest by a large margin. They're honest, hardworking, decent, good human beings.
Now, clearly there are some dishonest rich people, just like there are some dishonest poor people as well. But you're right, don't tar everyone with the same brush. But along those lines, it probably follows on, the poor have heard words like, oh, look, the rich, being rich, money is the root of all evil, things like that when they were young. And so they believe that richness, money, wealth leads to bad things, to evil. But that's not true, Tom.
It's not true. But I have to tell you, Michael, I grew up in a family. My mother used to paraphrase this gospel, part of the gospel. I think it was the eye of the camel. And
something
she used to
about
say,
the needle through the eye of the camel.
yeah,
I know.
it's easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than it is for a wealthy person to enter the kingdom of God. And I grew up, hearing that. And so I naturally, I thought, well, money is the root of all evil. My mother told me so, and I love my mother, so she must know what she's talking about. And I grow up and become an adult, and I carry it with me until I do my rich habit study, and I find out, oh my God, the rich people, they do so much good with their money. My mother was the opposite of right, which we call wrong. And I grew up and being indoctrinated with that limiting belief.
Another concern poor people have is that if I become rich, it's going to change me, that money changes people. I don't think that's true.
There is some truth to that with respect to when you have a windfall at a young age. The fact of the matter is your brain keeps evolving, keeps changing. It really doesn't mature until you're into your late 20s. And so if you see a lot of these sports athletes who all of a sudden they fall into 10, 15, $20 million and they're out spending that money as fast as they can, that they're the exception to the rule. The fact of the matter is, at least in my research, my study, it took an average of 12 years for dreamers to become successful, wealthy. It took 20 years for virtuosos to become wealthy. And it took 32 years for savers/investors to become wealthy. So the point is, it takes a long time to become wealthy. And, because it takes so long, when the wealth does come, you don't say, oh, I'm going to become a different person now. You slaved for that. And, you're by the time you become wealthy, you're not a young person. So you're not going to, you're set in your ways. You're not going to change too much. You see it with Warren Buffett. The guy is still frugal. He's a billionaire and he's still frugal. There's story after story about how frugal he is. And so, it's not really true.
Tom, I've also heard that some poor people are concerned about becoming rich. If they do become rich, they're going to lose their friends. That doesn't make any sense to me.
No, and I'll be honest with you, they don't lose their friends when they become rich. They lose their friends when they decide that they want to be rich, because in a lot of cases, the people that you surround yourself with are often holding you back. So if you're poor and you're surrounded by toxic people, then when you start your path or your march towards wealth, those friends that are holding you back, they fall by the wayside. But if you have good friends, good, positive, upbeat friends that you surround yourself with, they're going to stick with you. You're going to want them to be with you, because those are exactly the type of people that were encouraging you and cheering you on. I call them cheerleaders, right? And you get rid of the boo leaders and you keep the cheerleaders. Well, if you're surrounding yourself with friends who are cheerleaders, you're not going to let them go, because they're in a large part responsible for your success.
Now, we're going through in this podcast this week 10 more of the success habits of wealthy people, of successful people. Having said that, if you want to know more about this, why not get my book that I've written together with Tom's book that he's written together with me, Rich Habits, Poor Habits. You can get it at richhabitspoorhabits.com. You can get it online on Amazon. You can get a physical copy in bookshops or through richhabitspoorhabits.com. But if you're enjoying this conversation with Tom and me and you're wanting to learn more about it, if you're wanting to understand what's holding you back and how you can get to the next level, I'd really recommend you get a copy of our book, which is actually doing really well, not just in English-speaking languages, but, Tom, now a whole lot of other countries have recognized this and are translating it to educate more people.
Well, Michael, when I was visiting you not too long ago, a few months ago, I told you I really believed Rich Habits, Poor Habits was a diamond. That book was going to one day be one of the best self-help books ever. And I really believe that. And what's happening now is we've got all of these international publishers who have woken up, or, they've realized this book is a tremendous book, so that we're getting bombarded. Poland, India, Vietnam, China, you and I over the last month, we've
Taiwan,
been
Vietnam.
signing contracts, publishing agreements all over the world. And so our book is going to be, half the population is going to be reading Rich Habits, Poor Habits, not too long from now.
Well, I guess our intention is to help people get out of poverty, to change their habits, because if you can change your habits, you're going to change your life. I think one of the other habits I'd like to discuss, 3 more in this session today, Tom, is that successful people are resilient. The average person seems to throw in the towel just when they're warming up.
Yeah, and I think this is in large part a byproduct of the powerful, clear vision that they have of themselves. They see themselves as someone who's successful and wealthy, even if they're not. So when they're pursuing wealth, when they're pursuing success, they don't stop and grumble about the newest obstacle or the latest adversity that has visited them. They plow through it and they keep at it. They're resilient. They're persistent. They never quit. In fact, I love the interview that Elon Musk did when they were interviewing him about his rockets. They said, when your first 3 rockets crashed and you were running virtually out of money, and yet you didn't throw in the towel. How come you didn't throw in the towel? How come you didn't quit? Just take, your 30 million that you had left and just walk away. And he said, the only way I'm quitting is if I'm dead or disabled. And that's the way that wealthy people think. They just don't see quitting. It's not in their DNA.
Now, an interesting corollary to this is that the poor believe their thinking is unrelated to their net wealth. I think the message we're trying to get across in these podcasts, Tom, is that your mindset is critical to your results in life, in all areas of your life, including money.
Oh, it's actually, if you think about it, Michael, you only take action after thinking about something, right? So if you have a negative mindset and you think, I can't do this, you're never going to take action. If you have a positive, optimistic, upbeat mindset, you're going to think, I can do this. If Tom Corley and Michael Yardney can do it, I can do it, because we both came from humble beginnings. So they're going to look at anything in life. Your mindset is going to dictate whether you take action or whether you don't. If you have a negative mindset, you're not going to take action. If you have a positive mindset, you are going to take action.
Now, I first learned this concept in a book, The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles, and T. Harv Ekers wrote it very well in his very popular book, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. And it's your thoughts lead to your feelings lead to your actions, and your actions lead to your results. So your thoughts and your feelings are internal. Your actions, your results, your external. So your external life, the results you get, have so much to do with what's happening internal and the way you're thinking. And some of it's conscious. Of course, one of the things we're trying to get across, Tom, is the point that a lot of this is at an unconscious level.
Yeah, if you really think about it, most of the brain, and I know this because I study the brain, I study neuroplasticity, neurology, because habits are brain-based. What I know is that the subconscious mind has been around for millions of years, and the conscious mind is a fraction of the entire brain, and it's only been around for the last 200,000 years. Most of our advanced abilities reside in the subconscious mind, the limbic system and the brainstem. I love that book, by the way, that you just mentioned. And there's also one called The Power of the Subconscious Mind by, I think his name is Thomas Murphy. What a great book. He really gets into the nitty-gritty about how important it is, your subconscious, in terms of success, and how easy it is to reprogram your subconscious. And why would you want to reprogram your subconscious? Because it dictates about 5/6 of your brain power. So you really want to get your subconscious and your conscious brain working together. But by far, the subconscious is the most powerful part of the brain.
Makes a lot of sense. The last success habit I'd like to discuss in this show is that many people believe that they've got to be educated. You've got to be smart to be rich. and I know you've studied successful people in your 5-year Rich Habits study, and it actually found that success hasn't got to do with your education. In fact, it hasn't even got a lot to do with your intelligence. But you do have to become financially fluent. But we've had a discussion on a previous podcast. You can change your IQ. You can change your intelligence. So where you've gone to school, the level of your education, that doesn't matter, does it, Tom?
No, and this is such an important point. 39% of the wealthy people in my study did not even have a college education. And here's why. Not only could they not afford college, they didn't have the grades to get into college. So these are people that you would say aren't very smart, yet they rose up from poverty or the middle class and became very wealthy. So clearly, an education, a formal education helps. There's no doubt about that. But is it a prerequisite for being successful? Absolutely not, because most of the education that, or the growth that takes place, that you need to take place in order for you to change from the person you are to the person you want to be, is self-education. It's taking action and learning through the school of hard knocks. It's reading books. It's listening to podcasts like this. It's listening to experts and virtuosos. That's how you shortcut the process, is listening to other people who have done it before and know what they're talking about. That's an easy way. It's instead of doing the school of hard knocks. That's why I love mentors so much. If you are lucky enough to have a mentor, I swear to God, I don't even think you need a high school education. If you got the right mentor, that person can teach you to be successful without a high school education or college education.
Well, that's what happened centuries ago. You took an apprenticeship, you worked with a mentor, you worked with somebody who showed you how to do things, and you learned your trade, you learned your skills, you learned to become better at life. So you have virtual mentors, people that you may never have seen, like some people listening to this podcast who are in far-reaching countries. Tom, we rank very highly in Zimbabwe. I was amazed. In Senegal, I'm not even sure where that country is, but I saw this podcast ranks very, very highly there. So we don't take the audience that listens to this lightly. We very much appreciate the time you're giving up, and we enjoy sharing with you these success habits in the aim of allowing you to achieve what you deserve in life, because unless you change your habits, you're not going to change your life. Tom, I look really forward to having another one of these chats with my next monthly Rich Habits, Poor Habits podcast with you real soon.
Likewise, Michael. Can't wait.
Well, that's it for another show. I'm enjoying going through these success habits with Tom. Clearly, we think very similarly. Tom's done his detailed 5-year study of the wealthy people and the average American. And I've, over the last decade or so, mentored over 2,500 successful, and I guess some non-successful investors, business people, entrepreneurs. And it's from there that we've gleaned this information. And as I've explained, we've put this into our best-selling book, Rich Habits, Poor Habits, that you can get at richhabitspoorhabits.com. So once a month, I'm doing these Rich Habits, Poor Habits podcasts with Tom, because I've come to realize that your attitude towards money and your mindset simply won't allow you to get to the next level unless you change. So recognizing your rich habits, your empowering habits, and also recognizing your poor habits, your disempowering habits, is really important to you. So I look forward to speaking to you again next week for my regular Michael Yardney podcast, then again once a month for our Rich Habits, Poor Habits podcasts.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Michael Yardney podcast, which was brought to you by Metropole, who help their clients grow, protect, and pass on their wealth through strategic property and wealth advice. If you like what you heard and don't already subscribe, you'll find us on iTunes or on your favorite Android app as the Michael Yardney podcast. Watch out for our next show, which comes to you twice a week, and you'll learn some new ideas about property investment, success, and money in around 30 minutes. To get more of Michael's thoughts, go across to www.propertyupdate.com.au and sign up for his daily morning briefing, and you'll hear from not only Michael but a group of leading property success and money experts. And just a reminder that the information you heard in this show today is general educational advice and not specific investment advice, as we don't know your personal circumstances. If you're looking for specific advice, why not ask the team at Metropole to help you?